everyone, welcome to Backstory Sessions. I'm your host Matt. We hope you enjoy this episode.
Hey everybody, it's Kat, and I want to welcome you to this episode of Backstory Sessions. I'm joined today by my co-host, Matt. Hey, Matt.
Hey, Kat. Hey, everyone. How are you?
Well, we have a 4-time Emmy winner as our guest today.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I know. It's probably the first one that's won 4 Emmys, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I can't remember any of those. Of course, I can't remember last week. So.
Well, I know that we've had many successful actors, musicians, we've had a lot of successful people.
Yep.
But 4 Emmys is really, I mean, it's nice to be appreciated and honored for the good work that you do, I would think.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah. It's gotta be pretty cool to win, multiple times. Or once, I mean, that's gotta be awesome.
I know. Can you imagine, always in my mind, I'm thinking, what would my speech be if I were to win something,
Yes.
It's more in my life, I thought, I would win a Grammy Award, and what would I say,
Right. Well, maybe they'll give out awards for podcasting at some point.
Yeah, and I don't want them to, cut my speech short for commercial. I hate when they do that,
Yeah.
And also, I hate, when people walk out on the stage and, take the mic away from you when you're trying to make your speech. So,
yeah. Thanks, Kanye.
Well, I figure, for podcasting, that probably would not happen that way.
You never know.
Well,
Podcasters are a strange bunch, so.
But talented, some are.
Of course. Yeah.
I mean, do you think they would give just one award to both of us and we'd have to share it, or what?
I mean, I guess we would each get a plaque or a trophy or something.
Well, who'd make the speech?
I think we would have equal time.
Oh, wow. Well, you better not mess it up. That's all I can say.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's no guarantees.
Well, back to our guest. She got to accept the award all by herself because it was given just to her. But she has gone on not just, some people would get 4 Emmys and they would just call it quits, okay, I've achieved a lot. But she's on a current television series, Monster, the Jeffery Dahmer story.
Right, yeah.
So she has continued working, and making really successful, appearances on theater and TV shows, movies.
Right, yeah. I haven't seen Dahmer, but I hear it's a good show, and and she's certainly gotten some recognition for that.
The whole topic of that's a little dark for me, so I have not seen it either. I just can't even imagine. She plays his grandmother, so what a contrast from playing Momma Walton to Jeffery Dahmer's grandmother.
Right, yeah. It's certainly I don't know, certainly quite a switch.
Yeah, and so I wonder, how does that's something I'd be curious to know from her is like, how do you prepare, for a dark role like that? And especially, I mean, there's like dark roles, and like I think of like a lot of my plays are, some would say on the dark side.
Yes, some would.
Um, but again, those are fiction. And this with Jeffrey Dahmer, I mean, knowing that it's, was a real person who was that dark, a serial killer, cannibal, but yet, someone's son, someone's grandson. I just wonder if that's like a different approach to playing, a real villain. I guess
Yeah,
you would call him a villain. I mean, I don't know. There, there must be like some redeeming qualities. I mean, I think everybody, humans are.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just a really dark subject. So I just have not delved into that. So
yeah. I haven't either, and I probably won't. I mean, I'm not too overly interested in serial killers and that whole thing. But
yeah,
there are a lot of people who are. So they find
yes,
it fascinating that you know, trying to figure out like what drives them or that sort of thing. I mean,
yeah, and how they get caught and all of that because
right,
they in many cases seem to be very high functioning and very intelligent and like Ted Bundy and
right.
many of them are able to get by with it for a really long time. So it's yeah, it's just it's interesting though that we are getting to talk to the actress who is playing the grandmother, and the Waltons is it's one of those shows like we had Mary Ellen, Judy Norton, and
Right.
that was we learned a whole lot about it at that time. And I think I said on that, but I'll just say it again because my dad was such a huge Waltons fan, and he would really, really, really be so like happy to know that I was gonna be talking to Momma Walton.
Yeah, probably.
He would not believe it, probably. Like I hardly can.
Yeah, it was kind of surreal for sure. We've gotten to
Because
talk. Go ahead.
she has one of those voices like Loretta Swit has that's very memorable.
Hmm.
And I just wonder if it's going to seem like that we're talking to Mama Walton when we do the interview.
Yeah. Did you watch the show a lot? I mean, I guess you did by
Um,
extension.
not as much, like not, like sit down and watch
Religiously.
it start to finish. I over the years I have seen many of the episodes, but um, not particularly while it was on.
Hmm.
So
I saw one recently. I don't remember how I ended up watching it, but it was like a Christmas episode or something, um, where everyone was sort of scattered and couldn't make it home for Christmas, and there was I don't know, there was a lot going on. It was, a little bit beyond me. I didn't know really who the characters were and stuff, but good writing and um, it was interesting.
yeah, there was one with the Baldwin sisters that was really interesting too. So I definitely think the writing, I mean, it's based on a true story, like the real family experiences. So
Hmm.
I guess that lends itself to good writing when it does
Yeah,
seem real.
when you're pulling from real life. I'm sure it makes it a little bit easier. Just
Yeah.
change the names to protect the innocent.
Or the guilty.
Oh yeah, sure.
But it's fascinating that we're getting to, again, I said it before, but I just feel like it's a bit of TV history, and we get just a little glimpse into, maybe some of the things that we didn't know. And I find that fascinating. It's a great job we have.
Well, some say it is the hardest job ever, but you seem to do well at it. So.
Yes, thus I will say when I'm accepting my award.
Yeah. Well, there you go. All right. Well, let's talk to Michael Learned and hear all about the Waltons and Jeffrey Dahmer's grandmother and all the other things that she's been doing.
All right, let's do it. Michael Learned, I want to welcome you to Backstory Sessions. We are so honored to have you as our guest today.
Well, thank you. You're old when people say they're honored to have you.
No, not necessarily. It just means that you have been very successful, which you have. You had a very interesting career, like being John Boy's mother and then Jeffrey Dahmer's grandmother. That's like,
I know, what a switch, huh?
Yeah, a few people can say they've had both of those.
Well, actually, his grandmother wasn't out killing people, and she just loved her grandson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do want to talk a little bit about that role, and
okay.
I want to get some of your backstory before we get into, of course, the Waltons and just your whole career. But where did you grow up? Where does life begin for you?
In Washington, I was born in Washington, D.C., and I grew up in Connecticut on a 21-acre hobby farm, they call it in Wisconsin. Gentleman's farm, they call it in Connecticut. So it wasn't an agricultural working farm, but we did have all our own organic vegetables, and my father raised show rabbits, checker giants, and we had a cow. So we had my best friend's family lived nearby, and we shared her milk with that family. And so in a sense, we had the best of both worlds. It was a beautiful, beautiful place. The people who had owned it before us were horticulturalists, so there was a wildflower garden. It was magical. There was a wildflower garden. There were lilacs around the circular driveway, and flowers everywhere, roses and forsythia and all the beautiful, anything you could, apple trees in the front yard, pears growing along the fence. It was just a paradise, really.
It sounds like it. And so have you continued with that part of your life? Do you still have like a green thumb and flowers and all
I have never had a green thumb, but I love flowers.
Well, we have that in common. I could kill anything, I believe. Though I do love flowers too. So how were you exposed to the arts?
Well, I loved dancing when I was a little girl, and like most little girls, I wanted to be a ballerina. And well, I think about it now, and I think I didn't want to be a ballerina. I wanted to be a prima ballerina. And so so I had ballet lessons, and we went to New Canaan and had ballet lessons 2 or 3 times a week. And then when we moved to Austria, I went to a boarding school in England where they were teaching ballet and drama. And the teacher one day took me aside and said, you're not a very good dancer. Why don't you think about becoming a special drama student? So that's kind of what I did.
How did that news? How did you take that news? Were you crushed, or were you like, okay, well, maybe she's right?
The latter. It was kind of, okay, I think she's right. I'm too lazy to be a dancer. I mean, oh my gosh, the dedication of dancers is just remarkable. And yeah, and I had won the Drama Cup, which was a sort of surprise to everyone because we had a little in-school competition every year, and I won, and
Wow.
everybody was shocked. And that's when the teacher sort of took me aside and said, "You're really not a very good dancer." So, and it was wonderful. The school was so fabulous because the ballet students had a ballet class every morning, and then one other class, maybe tap or drama or some Greek dancing, whatever they had. But they consistently had a ballet class every day. And when I became a special drama student, I had a drama class every morning, plus dance classes. So, you're really getting trained in your bones at such an early age. I was 11, I guess.
So what caused the move to Austria?
Well, I didn't know at the time, but my father was working for what was then the OSS, I guess, and later became the CIA. So he was doing Secret Service stuff. Yeah, it was a spy, I guess.
It seems like the move was a good thing for you as far as the arts go.
Yeah, it was a big wrench, though. I left. I had a pet goat named Rebecca, and I had to leave her behind. And at 11, your school, your friends are everything, and so I wasn't too happy at first, but I grew to love it after we'd been there. We were there for 3.5 years, so. I grew. I love the country. It's the most beautiful country in the world, Austria. And we learned to speak German very quick. My father just put us straight into a local school, and so we had to learn to speak German very quickly. And it was really a remarkable experience. Very much like The Sound of Music, believe it or not.
Yeah. Well, so at what point was it there that you decided this was going to be your career path?
Well, no, I'd always wanted to be a dancer way before we moved to Austria, when I was a kid. And I don't think I had thought of it as a real career. I didn't, when you're a kid, you don't think in terms of career. It was just, the fantasy of kind of curtsying at the end of a ballet and somebody bringing you flowers and cheering or whatever. But I got very, very quickly very serious about acting, and I loved it. I loved the words. We studied Shakespeare. It became sort of second nature to me, and I still do. I mean, when I'm doing a play, or I remember doing Under Milkwood, Dylan Thomas's beautiful play, and sitting there and thinking, God, am I lucky to be sitting up here and listening to these words and speaking this beautiful poetry that he's written. And so I left the dancing behind. I've always loved to dance. I still take classes even at my age. Jazz classes, but acting was sort of where I was supposed to be, I guess.
Yeah. So you fell in love with the stage first, it sounds like.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Before you got into film. So what caused the transition? When did you make that from stage to? Was the Waltons your first role?
No, I'd been doing television. I lived in Canada for a while. My first husband was Canadian. We lived in Toronto. so I did a lot of television there, but a lot of it was television. The big cameras, and we did some of them for the CBC. We did some real classics with these awkward big cameras and running from one stage to another stage. It was quite an experience. And then film. And then when we moved to San Francisco to the repertory company, the American Conservatory Theater, at one point when my marriage was kind of falling apart, I decided to drive down to LA and meet casting people. And my agent said, "Why don't you try out for this role?" And I said, I'm not right for that part. And he said, "Go anyway." And I did. And the hand of God was on my shoulder, I think.
Why did you think that the role wasn't right for you initially?
Well, it was a role that Patricia Neal had played initially. And she's dark, brunette. I'm blonde. And she was in her 40s, and I was 32, and the part was calling for a redheaded woman with long hair in her 40s, and I had short blonde hair, and I was 32, so I didn't think I stood a chance. But there was a wonderful woman who was the head of casting for CBS named Ethel Wynant, and she had come up to San Francisco to see plays, and she went to bat for me. And a director friend of mine later told me she wrestled Fred Silverman to the ground over you. So, again, she was my angel.
Wow. And so after you got the role, then did you feel more like, yes, I think I can make this character. It is suited for me.
Well, the writers, after a while, they get to know you, so they begin to write for you in a way. I mean, it just rubs off, I suppose. And I had a little trouble in the beginning with Earl, because Earl Hamner, the creator of the show and the real John Boy, he idealized his entire family and his mother. He didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And I said, "Earl, didn't your mother ever make a mistake? I mean, she's so perfect, everybody's going to hate her." And so I had to struggle sometimes. I said, have her scold the wrong child, make a mistake. She doesn't have to kill anybody, but have her be human and not just so perfect and, always loving and kind and understanding. So he listened to me, and God bless him, he gave me some meat to chew on,
Yeah, because I'm thinking with all those children, a mom is bound to make some mistakes.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And it's endearing when you see people make mistakes. There was one script I remember where Tammy Cutler got a doll from Godsy's store, and a wandering homeless peddler guy sort of comes into the family, and he has a daughter. He tells them that he has a daughter, and he doesn't have any money, and he's walking away, and Earl had Cammy run after him and give him her doll. And I said, "Earl, why don't you have her want to give him the doll?" And she runs after him, but she just can't part with the doll, because that's kind of human. And
right.
And he changed it, which was very sweet of him. But because, who loves these perfect people? And we're always being written up that we're so perfect, that the family was so perfect. But really, we tried very hard to have us not be perfect.
Well, your co-star, Ralph Waite, there definitely seemed to be a real chemistry or connection with the two of you. Did you sense that from the beginning?
Pretty much. I was a little intimidated in the beginning because I thought the kids seemed to know how to hit their marks, and I hadn't done television in a long time. I'd been doing theater, and I was sort of intimidated. But I can't describe what happened with Ralph. But we became husband and wife in a way, like spiritual husband and wife. We became best friends, and that made it all so much easier. I can't even imagine spending 9 years with people you don't get along with. 15-hour days with people you don't get along with. And fortunately, we all really liked each other and cared about each other. So again, I feel very fortunate.
Did you ever have any spats with each other?
Oh, sure. All the time. Yeah.
Like a real family?
Yeah, we were like a family. I mean, Ellen once didn't want to, I can't remember what happened, but something, they changed a line of hers, or she wanted to change a line and the producers didn't want her to, and she locked herself in her dressing room and wouldn't come out. And I finally got her to open the door, and she was freezing cold. The air conditioner was on, and her lips were blue, and she was chattering. And I got the prop man to give her, I said, go get some whiskey of some kind, something. And, got her to take a couple of slugs and take her home. And, it was very dramatic. And yeah, there was stuff like that. I mean, Ralph and I had a spat once, and I had to knock on his dressing room before the scene. I said, you got to make up because I can't do the scene if I'm still mad at you.
And what was his reaction?
He held out his arms.
Aww.
He was a sweet man. He was a nice man.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he had a daughter who died of leukemia. So he was gravely wounded by her death. I think his heart never really fully recovered from the loss of his daughter.
And imagine.
Yeah, so there was a sadness deep within Ralph, kind of a deep sadness. And he was a very human guy, but a very decent person.
Did you remain friends, or do you remain friends with everyone after the show?
We adore each other. We don't always see that much of each other because, they have their families now. But right. Whenever there's a reunion, we're just like kids. We're just so happy to be with each other. I honestly don't think I could have done it if it hadn't been that way. I'm not good at working with people I don't like.
Yeah. Well, this is 50 years, I guess. So, what have the celebrations been like this year?
Terrifying to think it's 50 years. It seems like yesterday.
Wow.
Every day I say to my husband, I'm one day closer to death.
And what does he say back? Is there like
he says, "Oh, shut up! Stop! Will you stop?" But anyway, he has a great sense of humor. So,
do you still see like when you see them? Because obviously they're older as well. Do you still see them now like they were your children, at the ages they were in the Waltons? Or, how is that, seeing them grown up now with their own kids? And
it's just the same. Well, it's the same as seeing my own kids. They were my second family, and while we were shooting the show, I spent more time with them than I did with my own kids, really. It was interesting because I'd be with them all day and sometimes into the night. There were long hours. And I'd come home and my kids would be waiting with all their problems. And I remember once just saying, "I'm on strike," and they used it in the show. But I told my kids, I said, "I'm on strike. I just can't." I had groceries and everything, and I was going to cook dinner, and they were just all with all their problems and the homework and the this and the that, and I said, "I just can't." And I sat down, and my youngest son Lucas said, "Well, can we say good morning?" And I said, "Yes, you can say good morning. I'm on strike for tonight."
So you won 4 Emmys. What was it like to win that very first one?
Oh my God, it was a transcendent experience, really. I hadn't expected it at all. I mean, I didn't know anything. I was a theater person, and I didn't really even know what the Emmys was all about, to tell you the truth. But they sent a limo to pick me up, and I had this beautiful Bill Blass dress, and with a feather boa, no less. And my son was all dressed up in his rented dinner jacket, and he even combed his hair, and he was my date, obviously, and off we go. We were both excited. It was like we were outsiders, really. We weren't in the Hollywood milieu, really, and so it was all a big adventure. And I was so relaxed because I didn't think, it never occurred to me that I would win an Emmy for pouring coffee, basically. And when they called my name, they got it mixed. They knew it was a woman who had won, but my name was Michael, and so they were understandably a little confused, and they kind of stuttered over my name. And Chris and I were just kind of enjoying everything, and then I remember the expression on his face when he realized that it was me, and he must have seen it on my face too, and the two of us were wide-eyed. And I don't remember anything else, except I remember calling my kids afterwards from a payphone and telling them that I had won, and they were all so excited.
Yeah. I mean, that's really a big honor. So I can only imagine you went on to win 3 more. So
I did.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yes, it was, and each time it's a thrill, but there was no thrill like that first time.
Sure.
I mean, that was really actually. After that, you get nervous then because you think, "Oh my God, what if I win? I'm going to have to get up and thank everybody, and I won't remember anybody's names." And oh gosh, then it gets stressful.
Well, did they get your name right as the second one and so forth?
Yes, they did. Yes, they
Yeah.
did. And they had to. In the first year of the Waltons, they put Miss in front of my name because they had a picture of me with Cammie, Elizabeth. And they said, "Well, it's going to confuse people if the name Michael Learned comes up with that picture." So they had to put Miss Michael Learned. It wasn't me being a prima donna. It was just to clarify that I was indeed and am indeed a woman.
So, is there a backstory to being named Michael, or?
Yeah, my parents were such smartasses, I mean, I said, why did you name me Michael? And my father said, "Well, had you been a boy, we were going to name you Caleb. But as you were a girl, we decided to name you Michael." I think they'd had a few martinis or something and thought it was cute.
Alcohol may have been involved.
I think probably, yes.
Well, I want to talk about this new role that you've been playing as Jeffrey Dahmer's grandmother. What did you know about Jeffrey Dahmer before the series?
Well, I knew pretty much what everybody knows. I knew he was a serial killer and a monster, and that he was actually a cannibal. I mean, he was a horrifying person. And then when I tried to do research to find out about her, Catherine, there was nothing really on her except some home movies, which showed her kind of walking around the house with her cat. But he loved to talk about it. I mean, he was quite articulate, and he talked about it as if he was trying to figure it out himself. I remember at one point he said, well, I think there must be something wrong with my brain or something, because, you know, I mean, I don't know how I could have done those things. That kind of thing, as if he was trying to analyze himself. It's weird. Weird.
What is it like to love someone like that? Like, I'm sure as a mother or grandmother, you're going to probably love your child no matter what they do. But it must also be like a weird feeling to, you know, to have that realization that they, you know, are terrible in that way. So
horrible. Horrible. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, go ahead. Just of how you felt, like how you prepared for that.
Well, I didn't prepare for him being a serial killer. I prepared for a grandmother loving her grandson. And, you know, in truth, denial is a very powerful mechanism. How could she not have somewhere in the back of her mind known that he was chopping up bodies in her basement and, you know, cooking liver, a human liver? How could she not have somewhere known it? But apparently she didn't. And so I just played the love of a grandmother for her grandson. I have a grandson living with us now. He's studying to be a chef, and he's living with us. He's delightful and charming and good looking and everything a grandson should be. And you know, I looked at him one day and I thought, how would I feel if I discovered that this person I love so much and trust completely, if I discovered that he was out doing really bad things to people? And I thought, no, I'd still love him. I would.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that I struggle with when I think of all of it, is that you know, that love just wouldn't go away. But what a terrible, like, realization it was.
Horrible. For all of them. And I remember my son Lucas saying to me when he was just a kid, he said, Mom, if I killed somebody, would you turn me in? And I had to think, oh God, please give me the right words. I don't know how to answer this question.
Yeah.
So what came to me was, yes, I would turn you in, but I would come and visit you every single day. And that was the best I could do, would be that I couldn't allow you to go killing people, but I wouldn't stop loving you.
Wow. And did he seem, you know, satisfied with that answer?
Oh yeah,
to me,
he was fine with it. I mean, he's not a weird person. He was just a thoughtful kid. I mean, it's one of those questions that kids come up with sometimes, where you just go, oh my God, how do I answer this question?
Yeah.
And I think God sent me the right answer.
Well, so you've got to play a parent. You are a parent and grandparent. So what's next for you in your career?
I'm waiting for the phone to ring. I was supposed to go to Canada to do On Golden Pond with Hal Linden.
Oh, wow.
And I fell and broke my wrist, so I couldn't do it. And I love working there. I've worked for them before. They're a couple from Stratford, artistic directors are from Stratford, Ontario, the Shakespeare Festival. And as I mentioned, I spent many years in Canada, living in Canada. And so I always feel like I'm kind of going to my second home when I go back. And that was disappointing. I really was looking forward to doing it. But I'm fine now, and so now I'm just sort of out of work, waiting for something to come along, and it usually does, thankfully.
So, Matt, what do you think? You must have some questions.
I was just, well, so, I don't know how to articulate this. And I don't want to keep you on the phone here, so, because I know our time is getting short. So, I just wanted to give you the opportunity to answer a question that we typically ask a lot of guests. And if you could play one role across any role, any number of roles that have been, cast over the years, what would you pick?
Oh my gosh. I've been so grateful and lucky because I was in a wonderful repertory company in San Francisco, and I got to play the great roles of Cleopatra and Merchant of Venice, and I got to play those parts. And the wonderful thing about repertory is you can fail and then still get up on stage the next day and do a different play and win. So it was a very safe place for me to be, and we taught and we took classes and we acted, and it was an amazing time for me. And I think because of it, I got the role of Olivia Walton because of all the work that I was doing in San Francisco.
All right, well, we're not going to keep you any longer, but we certainly thank you for stopping by to talk to us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for your good questions. I appreciate it.
All right.
Have a wonderful afternoon.
Have a wonderful holiday season.
You too. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. As always, if you have any questions, concerns, or comments, you can send those to Kat at iWritePlays@outlook.com, or you can write to me at backstorysessions@gmail.com or matt@level11ventures.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.